Well, welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me today on the road again. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'll do it anyway. It's Michael.
Happy to be here.
I am happy you're here. And why did I say that? Well, because today we're going to take a journey. We're going to take a journey through, if you're going to be hitting the road this summer, you might be going through some states that offer tolls. And I say offer in a loving way. They'll toll you. But regardless, in the last month, we have heard a lot in information being shared out there from the FTC to even local toll places of these scammers setting up this overdue toll charge. But basically, a scammer trying to say, take a shot at that you've traveled recently in some capacity, or somehow have really got the technology here to really outsmart you on paying tolls and where you're going. So this is a very interesting one, and I had told Michael that off here that I just traveled out of state, and I saw the place that I was traveling. I signed up on the website, and it warned of this exact scam, which was very interesting. So I was watching as these things were coming in, the charges, and going through it. But very interesting how fast this one blew up.
It did take off quickly, and the states are doing a good job in trying to respond to that. So they're putting that promotional material out there to say, hey, understand that we may let you know that there is a late toll, but this is how it's going to be communicated. But also recognize there's a lot of fraud going on. And so what's happening is these text messages are coming in and saying you missed a toll and that you have a late charge. Some of them can be a little more threatening and say your registration might be suspended. But like many scams, what they want to do is create that urgency to get you to respond right away, because if you don't, bad things will happen. And in doing so, of course, they're always going to offer you a link to click on to pay that toll. And then that link is going to take you to oftentimes a website that's going to look very closely to, or very resemble closely.
Mimic.
Any of those words, let's pick one. Will look just like the legitimate website and get you to pay for that missed toll when in reality, wasn't. The reason that I think this scam is so popular and so probably effective is, as you noted, we are all traveling. There's a lot of travel going on in the summer months in the U.S. And so they don't necessarily have to hit the right person. They just got to try and hit everyone. And chances are, just by numbers, they're going to hit someone who has traveled to another state and went through a toll, like yourself. And so, unbeknownst, you wouldn't even realize that it might be a scam because you actually had gone through a toll.
Yeah, and you don't think about it, but a lot of these scams, especially text messages or emails, they're just blanketly sent out, and they're just praying that, out of the 3 billion people he sent it to, I bet you, half of those probably did some type of traveling, and it's going to be it'll hit you. And then what do you do in that moment? And that's where we're going to take this interview next. And the first one is slow down, which
Correct.
I think is something that we've talked about on the show, but in all of the scam and all the things we talk about, we have to slow down and really think about what are we doing.
Absolutely. Hopefully you heard something like this or you're aware of it, and so you get that text message and you just slow down and say, wait a second, did I even go through a toll? Just start with that. And if you realize I've never went through a toll, okay, then the second, well, what is this telling me? Is, all right, does somebody else maybe have the vehicle? If none of those line up, then you realize that, this is probably a scam. But it all starts with not responding. Just take a second to think about what's happening.
Yeah, there's no rush. They may claim that there's a rush, but there isn't a rush in that moment, in that time. So take a step back. Check with the tolling agency. And I was telling you this, that I was kind of reading into the logistics of how am I going to get billed, the timing. Mm-hmm. And it laid it all out crystal clear. Don't expect us to text you. Don't expect us to randomly get you, it laid it out there. So I would say you really got to read into these things.
You do. Take that time we were just talking about to do this very thing. Don't react to it, and go. Every single tolling agency has a website, has a legitimate website. So don't respond to the message. Go and find that tolling agency's website, and you hit on it perfectly. They're going to explain to you what they're going to say to you. They're going to let you know how they'll notify you if something is late and what will happen and how to pay it.
Yeah.
And then they'll also give you contacts, reach out, and then verify, do you have something that's late? So all these are opportunities to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, definitely do that. Next one is report it. Report unwanted text messages. And people are like, you can do that?
You can. There's a couple ways you can do that. The first is you can call, there's a phone number, which is 776-SPAM, no prefix. Every phone number will recognize that. Let them know that this is a scam, and then that information is aggregated, and then they'll figure out also where it's coming from, and they'll start looking into that a little bit more. You can also report those scams to us at DATCP. You can either go to our website at datcp.wi.gov, or you can even call us. We have a self-service option at 1-800-422-7128. Let us know, hey, here's the scam I got. This is the number it came from. And that helps us do one of two things. It helps look at how many times is this phone number reaching out, and we can maybe look into it a little deeper. But then it also brings awareness, so we can do exactly what we're doing here and help get the word out and let everyone know, hey, look at these messages a little bit more closely.
Yeah. And finally, don't engage, which is something I had to be told a few times from you guys because I engaged and now we never have the phone stop ringing here. But regardless, you really don't want to engage because it could lead to stupid things. I'm just going to lay it out flat and yeah.
It'll do a couple things. The first is, of course, if you engage and it's a malicious link or it's a bad phone number, we talked about what will happen there. Mm-hmm. The other is if you start engaging, it may validate that that's a live phone number. And so it'll most likely result in you getting more messages.
And your staff hating you for the phone ringing 200 times a day because you answered some calls and yeah.
An unintended consequence.
It is, and yeah, but you shouldn't do it, and it's not worth it anyways. I mean, it really isn't.
All of those messages are going to tell you something that you don't have to respond to, but it's going to give you an opportunity to at least validate it someplace else. There's not, and that's why these scammers are so successful, is because they actually want you to respond immediately and not do any of the things that we're talking about. You said it perfectly where we talked about how many people are driving this summer and there's so many cars going to be on the road. And the magic word that we've said for years together is that's phishing, right?
Yep.
It's just tossing it out there and waiting to see. Well, if nobody bites on that hook, well, then they're not successful. So don't engage, delete the message, move on.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you can check DATCP's website for more information and stay on the know on these things. And what the part why we continue to have Michael and the gang come back here each and every month is they're bringing the hot topics, the things that are out there, and trying to warn you, like, hey, you may know this, but it's still happening. And in this case, people reported it, and action has been taken, and pretty severe action, I would say. There's not a place that I haven't seen this, pop up and like, oh, it is real.
Right, and it also gives us the opportunity that while we see the same scams, we're starting to see different nuances, different tweaks, different approaches that make that scam seem a little bit different, oftentimes more convincing and believable, and so that's why we have to keep talking about them.
All right, well, I enjoy talking about it, so you just keep on coming back here, and we'll keep dishing out that information. Michael, appreciate the time as always. We'll see you next month.
You got it. Thanks, Jeremy.